Ladies and gentlemen, so excited for our guest today, a North Carolinian.
Yeah.
It's Drew Harrison. How are you?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Cheers, man. Thanks for joining me in the car.
Thanks for the coffee. I appreciate it.
Welcome here. And we're met a few weeks ago. I'll tell you what I bonded with you over was, I believe, both of our moms banned us from watching The Simpsons growing up.
Yes. It was all over a coloring book.
What do you mean?
We had this really cool bookstore back home, and I found this Simpsons coloring book, and I begged my mom to buy it for me because I loved coloring as a kid, loved drawing and doodling and everything. And it had "I'm Bart Simpson, who the hell are you?" on one of the pages to like a crossword style.
That's what did it?
And my mom was like, nope.
No. Was it now a religious thing? Because we probably have the same, sort of...
Southern Baptist upbringing. Couldn't say darn or crap.
Take
or
the Lord's
sucks.
name in vain.
Oh
yeah, no sucks.
Yeah.
That's what so crass of you to say sucks.
Right.
You know, looking back on what like our parents were worried about, I think today's world, it's like you have kids with instant access to porn at any hour of the day on their phone, and here our parents were worried about The Simpsons.
The Simpsons. I couldn't watch The Simpsons. I couldn't watch Married with Children.
Oh yeah, Married with Children was you had what's her name? The daughter was the hot.
She was so hot.
We didn't
she
have
still
porn.
is. Christina Applegate.
Yeah, we didn't have porn. We had Christina Applegate.
Yeah.
And in a wildly funny show. That was one of the first shows that I would sort of like try to get a glimpse at, knowing it was banned, that show, because when you're growing up, you don't really know, no one explains to you what humor is.
You don't do it. Oh yeah. Well, they also don't tell you why you can't watch a show.
Yeah.
Like if my mom would have explained things, I would have been like, all right, I won't watch this show.
Yeah, deal, okay. But when you told no.
Yeah.
And growing up, the nuance of what's funny, it sort of, you kind of have to come to terms with like, oh, that's a play on words, or oh, he's being sarcastic. And when you're a kid, you just take everything sort of at face value. Mm-hmm. So it does, like, you don't really get the humor to it.
Why is this funny?
Now I was listening to one of your podcasts, and you were talking about that you were part of a sketch comedy team with your church.
I was. Yeah,
Tell me about that.
So we were called Hayism. Here Am I, Send Me. We were a traveling sketch team, a lot of religious, obviously religious undertones in all of our stuff. We had a sketch that was timed perfectly to Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Nice.
We had all these signs that were like temptations for like the teenager, and then at the end I was Jesus and come like shelter her from it.
Did you have the hair? Did you have
every now and then I had the hair.
Okay.
Like I keep it long now just because it's, headshots and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I used to change it up all the time. Like I would wake up one morning and just buzz my head and then grow it out for 2 years.
There you go. Was that your first like dive into getting laughs?
Yes. Because we had one sketch where me and 4 other guys had to do in sync the choreography to Bye Bye Bye.
Classic.
And we crushed it.
I mean, churches can be a good audience. I mean,
man.
you got the Bible's
Very
not the most
supportive.
Exciting place.
Exactly.
And they have a hot room there for some actual jokes.
Yeah, dude.
That's a nice little biblical a drug there, getting a laugh.
It's definitely where I found out, like, because I always wanted, like, I wanted to be an actor without doing the work that it became to be an actor. Like, I didn't do theater at school or any of that stuff. I just, because of this church sketch team, I was like, I'm going to be an actor, obviously. And I definitely learned from that I love doing comedy acting way more than, like, serious. Because we had some serious sketches, too, and I was like, I don't like people reacting this way. I want them laughing at me.
Yeah, this is kind of heavy.
Yeah.
So how did you get from being in church sketch comedy to stand-up comedy where we are now?
Just being a fan of it. Like, I had no idea that comedy could even be a job or a part-time job or a hobby even, Like, I thought the comics, like, that was just their thing, and they were also actors and on TV shows and things. Like, I thought it was all intertwined.
Because you're 38, right?
Yeah.
So we're the same age. We have a very similar sort of upbringing in the sense, like, we grew up before social media.
Yep.
And really the last generation to do that. I mean,
we really had to just figure stuff out, like, because I wanted, like, I found out, I took the step of wanting to do comedy, and then I was from such a small town, like, I was like, well, what now?
Yeah. You didn't know to Google it. You didn't know what, you know, you'd have to know someone who's like, dude, you got to go to New York. You'd have to know someone.
Exactly.
And then they became your Google. And that's not always the right direction, but it's like, that's all you had.
It's all we had. So we just had to figure it out. So I ended up putting on my first comedy show by myself. Didn't know what was it. My roommate was a DJ, so he had all the sound equipment and stuff. So we set up at this brewery.
Open to Total Eclipse of My Heart? I got to start with my tried and true.
Yeah. Doing the NSYNC choreography to close it out. But no, I just word vomited what I'd been working on. Did 22 minutes my first time out.
22 minutes. So for
it was on YouTube for a while.
Listening that aren't in the comedy world, that is an eternity.
Yeah.
For a new comic.
A lot of friends and family were out, so they were very supportive. Got a lot of sympathy laughs. You know, like got a lot of, he's trying. That's okay. I see what he's doing.
All right, okay.
You know,
and you need that because honestly, like your first time should be, you know, a couple of like 2 tweets, boom, boom, punchline. Yeah. Good to see you. Come back in a few weeks.
I was like, nope, you're about to hear everything I've ever written in my life.
I ran the light my first set.
Nice.
I did one of those classes, and the first show was at the Comedy Store. And they were like adamant, like, you're doing 5. I was like, no, I'm not. Because when you're new, it's like, I had like a script.
Yes.
I was like, this is how long it takes.
Yes.
No amount of lights is going to change me from getting from the beginning to the end. And I probably did like 8, which, you know, it's pretty healthy light running for your first time. But, you know, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So when did you get your first cell phone? That's a question I like to ask people of our generation.
So I had a bag phone at 16.
Oh, okay. Look at you.
In case of emergencies.
So the bag phone came with you? It wasn't like a car phone?
No, well, it stayed in the car.
Okay.
Like, so when I got a license, my mom was like, well, I need you to call me in case you're broken down.
Black leather bag.
Sprint on the front.
Spiral, you know? Like a spiral cord.
Big,
like a
big so not even you had to pull up.
I love
you had to straight up like satellite it. You had to open the bag, antenna up,
probably
and then you had
$10 a minute for this phone call.
I'm sure. She was very adamant. Like, this is emergencies only.
Oh, funny.
And then I got the brick phone at like 17 when I went to college.
Yeah.
Because she's like, you're in college. Like, I went to college
Which
at 17.
probably still has half a battery charge to it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Phone.
She had a purple one, and she got me a yellow one because I loved yellow.
I learned how to text. I was in high school. My senior year of high school. Yeah, the T9. So again, this is old. I'm going to be telling my grandkids.
We went through this whole process.
If you wanted A, or if you wanted to say C, you had to hit the 1 button 3 times. And I can still. You got so good at this.
Yeah, you did. Like you just like not even looking. You know, like just like.
But you had that at 16. That's young. I got my first. Like I had my first phone when I graduated high school, so I was already 18. But I remember. We had this old training camp we went to a few weeks before football started. It was like a stay away camp.
Yeah.
And I remember there was one of this, like the rich kid who was like a sophomore. He had a phone, but he was
the Zach Morris phone.
No, this was close to like a Nokia style, like at this point, because he was younger, but I was 18. So this is like 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also friends with the girl that I had a crush on. So he was helping me coordinate how to text her. So I'm dictating text messages.
What is it? What's the Sereno?
Yeah.
Or like the guys hiding in the bushes feeding you a line?
Yeah, I'm literally, and I'm like and it would be 1 text at a time. And this is when you're still paying per text.
Oh, yeah.
So you're talking 10 cents a text.
Your mom's like, do you know how many texts you sent?
Yeah. So you have
to.
Oh, did you?
I messed up, and that phone my mom got me to go to college, I put on the back of my car bumper one time and drove off. And who knows where it happened to it. So my mom saw that as a perfect opportunity, is like, all right, this dude's close enough to an adult. He messed up. So she's like, if you want a new cell phone, it's on you. So that's how I first got like my first like building towards credit. Is I signed up for a belt card and I got a cell phone in my name.
And
that deposit was ridiculous because I had no credit.
You're a man at that point.
Yeah,
you might as well join the army
for like $300. Like, oh, okay.
Crazy.
Well, now we're paying $1,000 for the new.
Isn't it insane what we've been conditioned to pay now?
Yeah.
And yet it's still such a necessity. I was listening. Like you had to. When I had AOL Instant Messenger, so pre-cell phone, AOL, that was on your computer. best case scenario, your family had a second phone line and you kind of kept that logged on and you still had to go home to check it to see if you had plans for that night. But worst case scenario is that you would have to disconnect your phone's your family's ability to communicate with the world.
No phone call whatsoever.
As you're plugged in trying to like hit on Liz.
Yeah. Like, Ma, I gotta come on.
So I did this, they would have like a number,
AOL.
they would have the local number you would call. You would have to like dial it up on the router, right? And it just wasn't getting me internet fast enough, So I was like, let me try, and it would give you an option to different numbers. And I'm from Newport, Rhode Island. So I was like, all right, I'll choose this other number, which turned out to be Providence, Rhode Island, a county over. So every time I logged in, it became a long distance phone call. My mom got $1,000 phone bill. And I think they actually wiped it out. But that was after about 3 weeks of me sweating it out, thinking about how like my life was ruined.
I'm sorry.
All because I was like, I need to talk a little bit faster.
Do you remember those times in your childhood where you were just like, I have no excuse here. I'm just sorry.
Well, you start thinking like, if I run away now, I think I can avoid, like you don't have, so what was your AOL name? Do you remember?
So I was a big emo kid. I loved Newfound Glory. So I had 2 prominent AOL screen names. My first one was Dressed to Kill.
You had multiple?
Yeah. Because I mean, you had to, you aged up. You got out of your high school screen name. So you had to get an adult college screen name.
Of course.
So high school was Dressed to Kill. 15, because I was a Newfound Glory fan, and 15's just always been like my sports number.
Okay.
And then I upgraded to, my first car was an Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme.
Of course it was.
So my new screen name was Cutlass Blue 15.
You have to, your identity becomes whatever you make your screen name.
Yeah, man.
And like mine was Baseball DN. That was it. So people that didn't know me, like they just like, how's baseball? Because I was like, I just became like attached to this sport. I'm like, what if I wanted to play hockey? No,
those were my 2 sports. I was a baseball player throughout high school, and then hockey got to be pretty prominent, so I switched over to roller hockey.
Third base.
Third base.
I'm good. I thought I saw a third baseman.
Yeah, there we go. I was a backup catcher, but I didn't like doing it.
No, that's one of those, catching's one of those positions that the team need. It's almost like in stand-up, if you're really good, they want you to close, and it's like you don't want to always close, but you're good at it.
Or if you're really good and you don't have any credits, they're like, you can go first, right?
Yeah. Someone who can just like kind of, do
about lead off a lot in the comedy world.
I was
which I like, especially on showcases when they fall apart in the middle. You're like, I'm so glad I already went.
Going up early in stand-up is a skill that you don't want to have to do, because it's nice to go up third or fourth, but it's nice to know you can like warm a room up, and it's a skill that I feel like a lot of
people, as long as there's a host, I'm good with going first. I hate being the first one that they see, because I just have such low energy. I just set that tone. Yeah, and it's just a chill show, whether the rest of the people on that show wanted it to be or not. My
first year, I was opening for a comic on the road, and I had a cold open because it was only a 2-man show, because he did like an hour and a half. Yeah. So it took away the host. And so the only way I would get a gauge on if the room was going to suck or not was the pre-show announcements. Whether or not they clap when the audio guy says, make some noise, and you're like, you're like, oh, I'm about to eat it.
Yeah. I love when they look up, like, don't tell me what to do. They're like, clap, make some noise.
You get really good at telling jokes to people trying to figure out their drink order.
This guy just like fell in the parking lot.
Wait, someone just fell?
Yeah, he just busted it.
Oh, right there?
Yeah.
Is he all right?
I think so. Sorry, they just caught.
No, that's
ADD head.
That's the whole point of the podcast here. Is he's rubbing it off.
Okay, get up, bro.
That's not the way you want to spend a Friday.
I want to be like, Rob, you can do it, man. Come on.
You got it, man.
Hey, he's up.
Yeah, no one's going to believe him. I once had a bird attack me in the head.
Oh, no.
In California. Actually, a hawk, a red-tailed hawk.
Oh.
And I was like, no one's going to believe this. It hit me so hard, it drew a little blood. Oh, because it dive bombed me. Oh. And I saw there was a couple of these like Mexican guys, and they didn't speak any English, and I don't know what they said to me, but it was this moment we bonded where they were the only ones, like, I'm their story. I'm the white guy that got attacked by a hawk. Like, as far as I know, they think white guys just get attacked by hawks. Like, I don't know. But I was like, I looked at them. They're like, giving me like the thumbs up. I'm like, yeah, we're all right.
I'm good.
We're good. This isn't an everyday.
Like, it sucked, but I'm good.
But for 5 years after that, anytime I ran by that tree, I just like, had to make sure the hawk wasn't there.
That is hilarious, dude.
That's life for you out in LA. What's the animal like prey? What's going on here in Nashville? I was told there's a bunch of deer to like look out for.
Yeah, but you got to live in the neighborhoods they'll come to. You see everything's just so just industrialized. I don't know the word. Like, there's just roads everywhere. Yeah. There's buildings everywhere. But I have seen some deer in like the neighborhoods. That's they kind of got pushed out there.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's my fear, is that they're going to like jump out in front of my car, like driving home from a gig.
Oh, they definitely. Welcome to the South. That's a fear that I've had since I turned 16 and got my license.
That's why you had the bagged car phone, just in case.
I had a deer hip check my car.
Oh, yeah?
Like I didn't hit the deer. The deer hit me.
Yeah.
And he put I had a Kia Sportage. And it was on one of the main roads in our hometown. This wasn't your Cutlass. Right? Which my Cutlass is still sitting beside my mom's house.
Oh, there you go.
Like, it breaks my heart seeing it every time I go home.
Could you ever revive it one day?
So much money would have to go into it.
Yeah, that would have to be a pet
project. The engine needs to be rebuilt, the transmission, everything needs to be rebuilt.
Hey, you never know, though.
You do. You never know.
But yeah, you got hip checked.
It was a main road. It was right in front of the police department in Aberdeen, North Carolina. And a cop was pulling out. He saw this deer hip check my car and like shake it off and run into the woods. And me and my roommate we were both just like,
did that just happen?
And I look at the cop and he just goes and drive. He's like, I don't want to do any paperwork on that.
Well, so I'm from southern New England, but northern New England, when you get into like Maine, you got to worry about moose. Because moose will kill you.
That's a whole nother ballgame I've never even put thought into.
But that's it. Like, they will kill you, not because, no, the bull moose are aggressive, but because they're so tall. They're like dinosaurs. They are legitimately so big.
So you basically run your car underneath the 18-wheeler.
You'll take their legs out, and then several thousand pounds will crush and kill you. And it happens every year. And it's like, that's just what if you live in Maine, you just got to keep a constant eye out for life hitting you. But I guess here in Nashville, the deer aren't going to kill you, and so much as like, it's not like an actual worry about them. It's whether or not
like they just destroyed your car.
Yeah, that's like the only. I'm like, do I need special insurance for this?
Yeah. Now make sure to always, a pro tip from a Southerner for life: always get the police report.
Oh, yeah, for insurance?
That's how your insurance will cover it. Always, don't just drive off and say, screw it. Get the police report.
Good call. Good PSA. Thank you. That's what I do this podcast for. I learn new things. I don't know what I'm going to need to know.
I feel like when you move into a new area, you got to get briefed on what's going on. You know what I mean? So if you got any questions, let me know.
I have quickly sort of baptized myself into the stand-up scene here.
Good.
And I love the community. It's small enough that it seems like people care about each other.
People know each other, yeah.
So what are these cattle?
You'll see some, there's a little bit of cows.
They look fake. They look so like...
They're all the same. I've never seen all the cows be the same
like
color.
Black dark chocolate cattle. Interesting. But yeah, no, the community's been nice, and I personally don't feel like this is a regression for me, because like we moved out of LA to start our family and buy a home. Yeah. But it does, like, psychologically, it is like going from a bigger market to a smaller market. Right. I do feel like this pressure to like prove myself and do all these things, which it's
because
like
everyone knows every move you make.
Yeah,
and that's the weird part.
If I do some new strange bit tonight and it goes sideways to a whole bunch of comics who see me for the first time, I'm like, I'm not good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is that kind of balance between like, all right, I'm going to need this to not go bad right now.
Well, I hear you, man, because when I came to Nashville, I was like, thank God I've got this material that they don't know. So like I went to every open mic like a material. Like this is
everything's new to them, yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna hit y'all with like, I hope y'all think that this dude just doesn't miss. Because I'm not doing new stuff.
They're like, let's work
the next 2 years.
Let's dabble on this new thing, and you just level them. They're like, oh shit.
Like, look at this guy.
Now, what brought you to Nashville?
Just a bit. So I went from a smaller scene, so this is a bigger scene for me. So just I was starting to get some connections on the road. I was traveling more, and I was on the coast of North Carolina, so it didn't get me anywhere.
Like, that's right. You're none of those
just
island
man.
gigs.
Yeah, man.
What's your closest island? Are you like near Bermuda or something?
Isn't
isn't the Bermuda Triangle off the coast of the Carolinas?
No, it's further
south.
Yeah, it's off of Florida.
I know nothing.
Yeah, we got the Outer Banks out there.
Oh, there you go. That's what you have.
Yeah,
love it.
We used to have a comedy club out there, but it did not come back after COVID. I don't think.
Oh yeah. Well, COVID killed a lot of comedy clubs,
and I don't think
invented a lot of new comedians.
That much. Yes,
a lot of comedians emerged from the COVID.
I've interviewed a couple of comics that decided to start during COVID just to see like, what in the world were you thinking?
I'm all like welcoming, like everyone,
Oh, yeah.
It's like whatever, because at this point, I feel like I'm far enough away from like the new comedy.
Yeah, well, my whole thing is like, who am I to tell you what to do in the first place?
Yeah, like you're gonna be told there's too many comics, just like in acting, there's too many acting.
Yeah.
They
told me there was too many comics when I started 13 years ago.
Yeah, and at the time there were, and now it's worse, and because you didn't listen to them, I was like, you're not gonna succeed if you take everyone's advice.
Exactly.
In college, I had a fraternity brother tell me like not to try stand-up. He was like, it's really hard, and I listened to him and didn't do it for 6 more years.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I would have bombed and never tried it again. Who knows? But I was like, man, now that I got a son on the way, I want to, really let him know, like, to just do what you want to do, like do what excites you.
Yeah, dude. Like early on, you're told by so many people, do this, do that. Like I love my mom to death, but she definitely wanted me to be a doctor, lawyer, something more traditional.
Parents want the safest thing for you.
And that's just because she loved me and wanted me to have a good life.
And the safest thing they can want is for your ultimate protection.
Yeah.
But that's no way to live.
Exactly. Like I've tried to do things. Like I tried to be a pharmacist.
Yeah.
I hated it. You know what I mean? Like
Did you go to school for it?
No. Like I went to school for physical therapy.
Okay.
I hated that. Didn't last a year in that. Went to pre-law. School just wasn't for me. I ended up going back and doing what everyone told me not to do, and that was art. I ended up getting a media communications degree, and I do video editing, graphic design.
Who told you not to do art?
Everybody, teachers, my parents, my grandparents.
Dude, teachers suck.
They're like, you want to be an art teacher? That's all you want to be? That's the only thing you can do? Because I love drawing. My favorite thing in the world when I was a kid was combining my 2 favorite worlds, and that was sports and art. Yeah. And I would redesign uniforms.
Oh, great.
And logos and everything.
And is that not what that San Francisco 49ers, the wife of the player, she's literally sponsored by the NFL now because Taylor Swift wanted to buy her artistic renderings of jerseys.
Yep. And I'm just like, there's so much art. Like I do art now, like my favorite thing is, the reason I do so many podcasts and different shows is I love designing a logo and like the brand identity for it.
You're coming out of nothing, getting a few suggestions. Like how do you go about designing logos? You get a few like adjectives or descriptions of the company, and you just I try to just think like what the overall look they want. Like what's their color scheme? What's their overall? Like are they a modern company? Are they a retro company? Like what do they do? And like I just started a wrestling podcast with my buddy Evan, and I just went full on 80s wrestling logos. Yeah.
Because that was early 90s wrestling was like my favorite.
That's when marketing really got fun. That's when I heard this recently that creativity, actually, who said this was who's the one who made the vagina candle? What's her name again?
Oh, yeah.
What the hell's her? Not Anne Hathaway. It's people are going to be screaming at.
It's not Paltrow.
That's her. Yeah.
Okay.
What's her first name?
Gwyneth
Paltrow, right?
And her daughter
said
Apple.
Something. Yeah. She said something great about superhero movies and saying how like real art, good art comes when there isn't this wild expectation. And a lot of superhero movies, there's so much money on the line that everything's just like every decision's kind of like
crossing guard.
Thank you. Every decision is sort of overanalyzed and the safe choice is made. Whereas a lot of good art is done by like rock bands that have nothing to lose and like new things like things that come out of nowhere, comedians that come out of nowhere. Yeah. You don't have the pressure to like deliver on. You can just like try new things, and that's what the wrestling was, because they were just existing on their own in their own world, and they kind of like wrestling was great at showcasing bizarre storylines and wild costumes, and you could really see that.
Really
that was different than
control,
than like a pro sports team that was kind of like, we're just the Blue Jays. Like that's no fun. Yeah. That's why like minor leagues always have like these fun logos, because like no one's watching them.
And that's why I love minor league hats. Like I'm wearing a Braves hat, but most of my collection is minor league teams, because they just have fun with it. Like I have a hat that has a Chihuahua and 2 Macarenas. Or what is it, maracas?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I love it. Like I love color schemes and fonts and I have this illustration style about me, like you can see on my logo for my show Stone Cold Sober. It's a koala, a giraffe, and a panda, like through the different stages of inebriation on the show. And
how did you, being told don't do this, did you listen to people, or did you fail at the thing they wanted you to do and then like fuck your ideas?
So I listened to them. I listened to everyone and stopped doing art for my entire 20s.
Wow.
And like I didn't draw, I didn't paint, I doodle when I was bored, to keep something alive.
Was there a moment where you like shut down with it and you're just like, all right, I'm done, adult version of Drew is taking over, and how did you get that back?
Well, I think even like when I was like 13, 14, when people told me art wasn't a thing, when I stopped drawing, sports logos and stuff, I think that's when I gave up on it. I was like, no more, I don't care. When art was an elective at school, I didn't take it. I did something else that I thought would be a resume builder for college or whatever.
And so you've got like resume builder is the big term. And by the way, I mean, a lot of things could be a resume, like doodling's a resume builder, but
not the right resume builder.
My younger brother's studying in Florence, Italy right now. He's studying art, and I don't know, like I've just told him, man, I don't care what your art looks like right now.
Yeah.
I'm just in support of you continuing to do it, because what you have like inside that slab of marble is not for me to decide, and it's not even for you to decide. It's for you to just start chipping away at it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the issues with social media is that we see everyone's final product all the time,
don't see the process.
And that's the same thing with stand-up. Only stand-up I knew growing up was Chris Rock from like cassette tapes. I had no idea there was a bunch of shitty comics I could do stand-up with.
Exactly.
So when did you find out that you could do the open mic scene and actually see that there is a path to like being a professional?
So it's funny, my wife now, we were friends in our 20s, and her and my mom and a couple of close friends really encouraged me to start stand up. So I got out there. I went to a mixed media mic at Mellow Mushroom in our hometown, and I would have been the mixed media part.
That's the pizza place?
Yeah.
Nice.
And I got too scared. I got too nervous. I didn't go up.
Did your family, did they come to watch you?
It was just me and a buddy.
Okay.
And he was drinking, and I was his ride home. So he's like, whatever, man. I had a good time. So then I, started
how did you tell yourself, how did you talk yourself off the stage? Like what was going through your head?
I was just like, man, I went in hopes that anybody else would do anything other than music.
Okay.
And no one did anything. So I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to be the only one.
Yeah.
And so then I started trying to find places that were like drivable to do comedy. And after that first show and getting those laughs, like just the few laughs I got, I was like, man, I like this. And I was like, I know I got to do this. And so the only 2 scenes that I knew about before I even knew what a comedy scene was, just places that did comedy according to the internet, was Wilmington and Raleigh, North Carolina. So I went to Raleigh and did not have a good time at their open mic at Charlie Goodnight's, because they were not owned by Helium at the time. The management team does not have a good track record with being nice to young comics.
You bomb?
I didn't even get a chance to go up. I got banned before I got on the stage.
You got banned?
Yeah.
How did you get banned?
I pissed off the guy that ran the open mic, and then me and my buddy got into a argument with what we found out later was the owner. And
You're such a quiet guy. I can't imagine.
It was mainly my buddy yelling. But it did not go well. But so I was like, well, I'm going to move to Wilmington.
Yeah, and, you're like, I guess I just got blackballed from that scene.
And the comics in Wilmington accepted me immediately. Like, it was meant to happen that way. And a couple weeks after that, Helium bought Goodnight, so it was for nothing anyway.
Wow.
So, but I'd already made the decision to move to Wilmington, and the comics were great.
And that's a college town, right?
Yeah, and it's a college town and a military town, so it's got a whole bunch of things going on.
Good.
And big drinking town. It's just ingrained in the culture down there. I actually wrote a pilot called Drunkest based in there that I just
that would be a fun, just like Outer Banks. Like, there's something about small town life that's like not major city that you just maybe find some authentic characters.
Yeah.
So you do the first set 22 minutes in front of your friends. Now you're actually in a community. Are you now thinking like, how do I make this a career, or are you just happy to keep throwing shit at the wall?
So I've always been one of those men that, like, obviously I started off with all these great plans in life, you know, and like life hit me pretty hard in my early 20s, you know, with like family stuff and like just some things, just, you know, nothing went my way. We have a saying in my family, like, you know, like, if it, you know, if it wasn't for bad luck, you'd have no luck at all type thing. Like, we say it, my mom says it more eloquently than I can, but, so I just, you know, I'm along for the ride, you know, like, I still get that question 13 years in. They're like, what are your goals in comedy? I'm like, I'm just taking the opportunities that come as they go, man, because I think when you start putting expectations on things, it stops becoming fun. There's you start caring way too much and things start falling apart.
You know, the idea of detachment is so easy to talk about and hard to practice.
Mm-hmm.
And people have no idea how serious comedians take what they do.
And I did that early on, and it destroyed me. Yeah.
It's interesting when you talk about your 20s being tough and those being the times when you like didn't have art to go back to. So you get stand-up involved. Are you back to doing art at the time?
So no, I was just focusing on stand-up, and I literally was working a terrible job at a vet clinic and doing stand-up at night. Like, that was, and if I wasn't doing stand-up, I was hanging out at the comedy club. Like, the comedy club in Wilmington has a fantastic standing with the local scene. They're like, if you do our open mic, you can come watch the headliners whenever you want. So I was down there watching improv on Wednesday, doing the open mic on Thursday, watching the headliners Friday and Saturday.
And what you don't realize is your brain is just absorbing every trick and every punchline the headliners are doing. Yeah, that goes a long. For a long time in LA, I wasn't going to see shows. I was just kind of like doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And now that I've moved back here, I've been going to Backyard a lot when I'm not performing there.
Yeah.
And I'm just like enjoying watching comedy again. And I think it's in part because I've taken some of my ego out of it and feeling like I deserve certain stage time, and I'm just becoming a fan again.
Man, when we learn that we don't deserve anything, it's the best release in the world, man. Like, because talking about getting back into art is my wife, you know, like we reconnected in our 30s and got married, and it's I finally get now, like, I used to think it was so cheesy when people would be like, my wife is, you know, my life, and I'm like, whatever. But I get it, you know, I just wasn't in the right relationship my whole life, and my wife is a game changer. You know, she talked me into comedy before she even knew she'd be a part of it.
Why did she think that you should be a comedian?
I would always crack her up. I was a quiet kid, but I would always, you know, be like leaning into her and saying something funny.
That's what's so great about stand-up, is that it's not always the loudest person.
No.
But I remember in high school, I remember being on the football team, there was a couple other guys that were always louder. I come from a family where almost every cousin's louder, big Catholic family. And then I had a buddy, his name was Lenny. He was like, dude, Dave, you're really funny. Because I would just say bullshit under my breath.
Yeah.
And you need people to give you that confidence, because you don't know you're funny. You are just a product of your own thoughts. Right. And funniness comes from the reaction from your surrounding.
Yeah.
Robin Williams used to say that if he was talking to one person, it was a conversation, but if he was talking to two people, it was a performance. And it's kind of that way with stand-up. When you get a couple of people in a room, you kind of can get a show together.
Yeah.
But that's really great that she was able to. Now, did you dismiss her right away? Were you afraid?
No, I mean, it was one of those things where it was like, shut up. You know, like, flattered, but you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I never in a million years thought I would be a comedian, you know? Comedian, like actor, maybe, if the chips fell exactly how they should and I didn't have to do a lot of work,
Yeah.
maybe. But I've never tried harder at something in my life. Even going back to when I was a kid and playing sports, it came naturally to me. And I put forth the effort and put in the work you're supposed to at that age. But, like, comedy, man, is a whole other ball game as far as, like, what you have to sacrifice to do it long term.
You know what I like about it though is it doesn't have the time constraint that sports does.
You can make it like
Sports, you're like, all right, if you don't get it, if at 16 you're not getting D1 looks, then you don't
What's
make it.
the point?
Yeah, I used to always wanted to be a professional baseball player, and I still play.
Yeah,
I still play.
Honestly, I can't even play.
I have to find a league out here because I had a great league in California.
My arm is destroyed.
Oh, is it gone?
Yeah.
Did you have a serious injury or just over time?
Over time, and then I finally I went from throwing 90 something.
No shit.
To hitting 60.
That's impressive though. I never got over 85. I had no control. Yeah.
I couldn't throw a curveball to save my life.
But from third base, were you good?
Oh, I had a cannon, man. I could backhand it.
That's
from my
it.
knees.
Third base is I did third base in pitching, and but it's completely different style.
From the times I had to catch, where you're taught to throw from the back of your head, to when you're third base and you get the whole thing.
Yeah.
The constant switch, I blew out the back of my shoulder.
Oh no!
Like, I don't have anything holding the ball and socket in the socket anymore. So anytime I do anything overhead, my arm pops out of socket.
Do you feel like the rush of a good set is like do you feel the same competitiveness in that from sports, or is it a different?
Yeah, because like I've tried to deny that, but I've had some close friends in comedy to let me know that I'm a little more competitive than I thought I was.
Oh, really?
Because they've heard me say little things under my breath. Like I love that. Like on a show when like the first three comics before you, like you're fourth on a show and the first three struggle.
Yeah, and you're
crush. Like, get me out of there.
Yeah,
I want to come on. I don't get nervous. I'm like, well, I'm about to switch it up.
That's the same way when when like the three guys struck out in front of you and you're like, all right, I can figure this out.
Yeah, so I didn't see the translation, but like someone pointed it out to me and I'm like, nah, I am just as competitive as I was, just in a healthier way.
And what I like about it too is you can see it as competing against the other comedians because like all right, I woke him up, I got him, or whatever. Crowds, comedian before crowd sucks, and then all of a sudden you have a great set, and you're like, well, I guess you just weren't good at it, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's really like a sort of a victimless, like you're just trying to do the best.
You're really
you
competing with yourself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like you can make it mentally, like you can pull a Jordan and make up something that a comic said to you to give you the competitive edge. But you're really just you and the audience out there, man. And
you got those North Carolina references, Jordan.
All day.
Is Danny McBride North Carolina?
He's Wake Forest. So yeah.
Yeah, because you kind of have the similar
Danny McBride. I don't know if he's from North Carolina, but he spent so much time in North Carolina.
Yeah, I know he started his comedy.
Sorry, I heard Danny Manning.
Oh, okay.
Basketball.
Danny McBride
I'm still in that basketball
was, I don't know if he went to UNC or where, but I do remember him starting.
I know Zach Galifianakis went to NC State.
Oh, okay.
And Danny McBride just fell in love with the Wilmington, Myrtle Beach area when he was filming Eastbound and Down.
Oh, my gosh.
He has a house in that area. Him and, was it Jody, his writing partner?
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember. Yeah, that show, Eastbound and Down, might be
so many great Wilmington landmarks in that.
And then what's his show now? What's it called? What's the one now?
Oh yeah, Righteous
Gemstones,
which is like another North Carolina reference because it's off of the Graham family, and that's a North Carolina televangelist.
Oh, they said yeah, of course, so good. Yeah. Characters are so bizarre. You can like when we were talking before about like having. Like earning the ability to be like creative.
Yeah.
He has earned that, and because of that, he gets to take these bogus, insane choices, and because he's taking bogus and insane choices, you have actors that are amazing that want to be a part of that, because who doesn't want to be like, wild and different versus like whatever's cookie cutter Law and Order episodes are out there. So you can really see creativity being a magnet for other forms of creativity. So it's really cool to see that you brought your visual art with stand-up.
Yeah.
What a gift to have. There's nothing more important for comedians off stage than being able to communicate your comedy visually.
You got to have that other outlet too, though. Because comedy can get very frustrating. And I've been able to keep a level head the last couple of years and not get upset at, people getting other things because I found oil painting.
Okay.
I found, visual art on the computer. Like I have those other outlets. I got a wrestling podcast like that has zero pressure on it to do well whatsoever.
Yeah.
For me, I want it to do well, obviously, but you got to have that other outlet because
you drive yourself crazy.
As much as you can play it down and as much as you can become okay with the struggle of comedy, it still does weigh on you, whether you're knowing it or not. Like eventually you have that last nail in the coffin and you break and you're like, oh, I didn't know I was as stressed as I am.
So the anxiety, I have a headlining spot coming up and I haven't been doing much time and I've just been like anxious, but there isn't much you can do about it. So yeah, you have to have these other things going on because
keep those creative juices flowing.
Every good set I have is when I don't have time pressure, when they're just like, all right, let it loose, spend as much time, whatever, when you're not rushing, all of the different things that work in the showcase world of stand-up, like, all right, here's 5 minutes, here's your audition. Like LA was full of these 3 and sometimes 2.5 minute long auditions.
I did a 2-minute mic in New York.
Yeah.
In front of nothing but comics.
And you're just so revved up to go out there. And it's like if you're, I was never good at closing when I played baseball because I would my physical arm strength would be there, but I'd be so amped, I wouldn't even hit that strike zone. I'm throwing gas at people's faces.
I think if I ever was going to have a successful pitching career, I'd have to be a closer.
Oh, yeah.
And I would have had to somehow get my arm up to where I could throw like 100. And just gas it by you.
That's why we love Eastbound and Down so much, because it's just the wild ego.
Because my grandfather was a pitcher, and he played minor league ball, and his dad got a contract with the White Sox.
Okay.
And he was the player manager of the Durham Bulls in the 20s. He still owns one of the records from the 1922. Wow. He won 22 games for the Durham Bulls.
He had those old school leather gloves.
Yeah, that barely fit your hand.
Yeah, break your hand if you catch it wrong.
My grandfather wanted me to be a pitcher so bad because him and his dad were pitchers. And when he found out I couldn't throw a curveball to save my life, he just taught me how to be the catcher that he wished he had.
Oh, that's so funny.
I was a great catcher. Hated it, but I was a great catcher because he taught me from that pitcher's standpoint of how to be a good catcher.
I think being a pro baseball player might be the best dream, like the biggest dream out there.
Yeah.
At least from our generation, because I remember we had oh my gosh, Angels in the Outfield.
Oh, one of my favorite movies.
Those I was on a flight recently and I put Angels in the Outfield on. I was like, well, I'm either gonna cry. There's like you got like orphans that become like whatever. Oh, those movies are such classics.
Isn't it funny that the Angels are still struggling to win the pennant?
There it is. There it is. Oh man,
I did like the California Angels better than the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Yeah, that gave me a little.
Are they still of Anaheim?
They're just now Anaheim Angels.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's whenever like my team's the Red Sox, so whenever the Red Sox would be in town, I try to catch them. But I lived pretty much walking distance from Dodger Stadium in LA.
Oh, nice.
And that's a fun stadium to go to because nobody who lives in it, or it's changed a little bit, it's gotten a little more competitive, but nobody cared. Like I got World Series tickets. This must be like, I don't know.
So what is it about LA culture and just not caring that much about the sports teams? Like the Rams parade was terrible.
People are from all over.
Yeah.
So even though it's a giant city,
teams.
It's not a giant city of LA people.
I got you.
Yeah. So when other teams come in, you'll get a huge Detroit Lions audience. All the Michigan people that live there, we got to go. All the New England people, like for the longest time until the Red Sox started stinking it up, all of Dodger Stadium, like when I went, I think I went to Game 3 of the World Series. I think they won in 5. So maybe I went to Game 4. But like we got tickets that day. They were still a couple $100, but like if that was in New England, you just didn't get the tickets, or you like had to sell your kids, whatever, you had to rip the braces off your kid, or whatever. You just like they weren't available.
Right.
And so I think it's not that LA doesn't care so much, but I do think the other thing with sports is what you root for when you don't have nice weather. Good sports teams, Pittsburgh, Boston, New York, Minnesota, places that like you really do live by the sport.
Yeah.
And LA's like, no, you go to the beach. You just like. Yeah.
I just love how it's depending on your location too. Like territorial. That's the word I was looking for.
Oh yeah.
I grew up. College basketball was king. We didn't care much. We watched Atlanta Braves baseball, and you picked either Duke or Carolina or NC State. And you just watch college basketball. and that was everything. And then we pulled for the Washington. You can't say their dead name anymore. The Washington football team.
Yeah.
We pulled for them because they were the closest. My grandfather was a big fan because they were the team that was on TV. But we were very conflicted when the Panthers came to town. We were like,
what do you do?
I guess we're pulling for them. So yeah, but growing up in North Carolina, and you have that die-hard college basketball team, but like growing up, the Hornets weren't good. Like,
oh yeah,
I mean,
no.
they were, and then they weren't. Like we had Larry Johnson, Muggsy Bogues, and then it just fell off.
Dude, if Muggsy Bogues isn't inspiration for any.
I got a signed autograph picture.
What is he? 5'3"
from North Carolina,
right?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
I used to have like a bit. It's more like crowd work, depending on the audience. But it was like I was saying how like the only feeling I ever get to being catcalled is when I wear my Red Sox hat, because this was when I lived in LA, and I did this act out of like another guy yelling at me, because like that's what the only thing that would connect people visually when you live in a city like LA is a sports team. Yeah. Now, if you ever wear a Red Sox hat in New England, everyone's got a Red Sox hat on, so it's not a thing. But literally in LA, like a city like it'd be like here if you had a Vikings hat on, some guy would be like, that's odd enough that he would want to strike a conversation up with you, which would get quite annoying when you're just like trying to like go to the post office or something. But with your minor league hats, I'm sure you're incognito enough.
Yeah, I did very proudly and on purpose wear all of my Braves hats. The 2 weeks I went up to New York to do shows and mics.
How'd that go?
Great. Everyone yelled at me. It was fantastic. I was like a celebrity walking the streets. But
you felt like the hot chick.
Like, hey,
that's so funny. New York's another town that's tough because of the Mets, Yankees, and even Red Sox. Where I lived in New York was Dominican. I lived in Harlem. And
Big Papi.
And it was all Big Papi. It was Pedro. It was the time when like all of Dominicans rooted for the Red Sox because they literally had the Hall of Fame Dominican lineup. And so like a lot of people, it became cultural for that 20 city blocks. Yeah. Just Big Papi.
Well, a friend of mine made a point. He was like, because I was asking, we were watching MMA fights, and I noticed that he would always pull for the American, no matter what. And I was like, dude, why are you always pulling for that? He's like, well, aren't we American? I was like, and I just didn't think, like, other nationalities, like, they are diehard, and we've gotten, depending on what's happened in the country the last, little bit, we've gotten a little bit away from that patriotic.
Well, you know what? It's because you root for the underdog. So if you're from Trinidad and Tobago, you're rooting for the sprinter from Trinidad, Yeah. Here it's like, I don't know. I mean,
I just want to see someone get knocked out. But talk about like American hype when the Olympics come around.
Oh yeah,
I pull for every single American sport we got.
That's all we have. I mean, that's it. That's the last unity thing. Yeah. There isn't much, and it's like no
one's really wearing. I mean, it's crazy to think that patriotic gear has gotten a little like.
I think it's weaponized because people have treated. Like imperialism as patriotism. Yeah. And I think that's the problem. Yeah. And I think people would then think, oh, if I wear an American flag, because we all know if someone's decked out in an American flag outfit, they're probably an asshole. Like that just happened.
And I mean, I already got this going for me. I'm not trying to add to it.
So it's like, all right, I'll celebrate 4th of July. I'll wear my colors, but like, I'm not going to wear the...
Love being an American. Just might not catch me in some stars and stripes gear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like, no, they should be a PSA to bring back the flag to all political ideations.
I had so many shirts, American flag shirts as a kid. Like that's what we wore. And then you see, certain people on TV and you're like, I never
take it back. We're going to take the American flag back. Well, dude, thanks so much for joining me today.
Dude,
I really appreciate it. And where can people like support you, find out your stuff and all that? Shout it out.
So many shows on YouTube. So check out Drew Harrison Comedy on YouTube. Got a special out based on a Drew story I put out a couple years ago from Dead Crow in Wilmington. That's on my YouTube page. So yeah, really everything on YouTube. DrewHarrisonComedy.com. Links to everything.
Sweet.
Come see a show.
Thanks for doing it.
Appreciate
it, man. Yeah. All right, there it is, Drew Harrison.